Hey, so tonight we're going to talk about something that might make you grateful for modern plumbing. The absolutely terrifying reality of using toilets in ancient Rome. Not the sanitized version you might have read about in history books, but what it would actually feel like to sit down on one of those marble seats, knowing what lurked beneath. If you're enjoying these sleepy history stories, I'd love a like or subscribe to help the channel grow. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Find your most comfortable position. Take a slow, deep breath. And let's drift back 2,000 years into the shadows of Roman civilization. The morning ritual: you wake in your cramped quarters on the third floor of an insula. The morning light filtering weakly through the single small window. The air is already warm and humid, promising another scorching day in the eternal city. Your stomach churns with the familiar morning urgency, and you know that today, like every day, you'll have to face one of Rome's most dreaded necessities. The chamber pot in the corner of your room is full, its contents needing to be emptied into the street below or carried down to the nearest sewer opening. But your body's needs are too urgent to wait for that chore. You'll have to venture out to the public facilities, those marble monuments to Roman engineering that hide such terrible secrets. You dress slowly, pulling on your tunic with trembling fingers. The fabric feels rough against your skin, still damp with yesterday's sweat and fear. Through the thin walls, you can hear your neighbors stirring, and you wonder if they too are dreading the same journey you're about to undertake. The wooden floors creak under your feet as you make your way to the door. Each step seems to echo with the memory of previous visits to the public latrines, each one a gamble with forces beyond human understanding. Pause at the threshold, your hand on the rough wooden door handle, steeling yourself for what awaits outside. The streets of Rome, stepping into the narrow street. You're immediately assaulted by the cacophony of Roman morning life. Merchants are already setting up their stalls, their voices calling out the day's offerings in a mixture of Latin and foreign tongues. The smell of fresh bread mingles with less pleasant odors: human waste, animal dung, and the ever-present smell of unwashed bodies in close quarters. You navigate carefully around the puddles of questionable liquid that dot the cobblestones. Above you, someone empties a chamber pot from a fourth-floor window, and you press yourself against the wall just in time to avoid the splashing contents. This is daily life in Rome, where the magnificent architecture and engineering marvels coexist with the harsh realities of urban living. Children run between your legs, their laughter echoing off the tall walls of the insulae. They seem oblivious to the dangers that await them as they grow older, when they too will have to face the terrors of Roman sanitation. For now, they relieve themselves wherever they please, their waste joining the general filth that carpets the streets. A group of slaves passes by, carrying amphorae of water and wine for their masters. Their faces are resigned, weathered by years of servitude. But you catch a glimpse of sympathy in one woman's eyes as she notices your obvious distress. She knows where you're heading. recognizes the particular mixture of urgency and dread that marks someone bound for the public facilities. The morning sun climbs higher, its rays beginning to heat the stones beneath your feet. You can already feel sweat beading on your forehead, and you know that by midday the latrines will be even more unbearable than they are now. The heat will intensify every smell, every horror that waits in those marble chambers. The approach to terrors, you round the corner onto the main thoroughfare. You see it looming ahead the public latrine complex, its imposing facade decorated with carved reliefs of Roman gods and heroes. The irony isn't lost on you that these symbols of divine protection and human achievement adorn a building that houses such primal fears. The marble columns gleam in the morning light, their surfaces polished smooth by countless hands seeking support in moments of terror. Other Romans are converging on the building from different directions, each walking with the same reluctant gait, the same mixture of necessity and dread. You recognize some faces from previous encounters, fellow survivors of the underground horrors, who nod at you with grim understanding. There's Marcus, the baker, whose left leg still bears the scars from his encounter with something that had too many teeth. And there's Livia, the weaver, who hasn't spoken above a whisper since the day she saw something in the depths that defied all description. The entrance grows larger as you approach, its arched opening like the mouth of some great beast waiting to swallow you whole. The shadows within seem to writhe and move, though you know it's just your imagination playing tricks on your fear-addled mind. The temperature drops noticeably as you near the threshold, as if the building itself exhales a cold breath of warning. You pause at the top of the stone steps, your hand gripping the worn marble balustrade. The stone is smooth and cool under your palm, polished by thousands of desperate grips from Romans who stood exactly where you stand now. Below, you can hear the sounds that haunt your dreams, the drip of moisture, the echo of flowing water. Bound, and underneath it all, something else. Something that makes your skin crawl with primitive fear. Descent into the underworld, the first step down, is always the hardest. Your sandal touches the worn stone, and immediately you feel the change in atmosphere. The air becomes thicker, more humid, carrying with it the mingled sense of human waste, stagnant water, and something else, something organic and alien, that speaks to the deepest parts of your brain, the parts that remember when humans were prey. Each step takes you further from the safety of sunlight and fresh air. The walls on either side are made of the finest marble, their surfaces decorated with intricate mosaics depicting scenes of Roman triumph and glory. But even these beautiful artworks seem sinister in the dim light, their figures appearing to move and shift as shadows dance across their surfaces. The sound of your footsteps echoes strangely in the enclosed space, creating an odd rhythm that seems to be answered by sounds from deeper within the building, by other footsteps, perhaps, or the movement of things that have no business walking on two legs. You try to convince yourself it's just other Romans, fellow sufferers making their way through this daily ordeal. but the sounds don't quite match. Human movement. Halfway down the steps, you encounter the first of the warning inscriptions carved into the wall. Beware what swims below. It reads in rough Latin, the letters carved deep by someone with urgent need to warn others. Below it, in a different hand, the sea remembers Rome. And below that, barely legible, they come with the tide. These aren't official Roman inscriptions, but the desperate warnings of survivors, carved in secret moments when guards weren't watching. The authorities don't acknowledge the problems in the sewers, preferring to maintain the fiction that Roman engineering has conquered all natural obstacles. But the people know better, and they leave these messages for those who come after. The chamber of necessity, the bottom of the steps. You emerge into the main chamber, and the full horror of the place hits you like a physical blow. The room is larger than you remembered, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into shadows above. Along 3 walls run the marble benches, each with its row of circular holes cut through the stone. The holes are perfectly round, polished smooth by countless bodies, and they stare at you like empty eye sockets in a skull. The lighting comes from a series of small windows set high in the walls, their openings covered with bronze gratings that cast intricate shadow patterns on the floor below. The light that filters through is weak and watery, giving everything a dreamlike, underwater quality that makes you question what you're really seeing. Several of the seats are already occupied by other Romans, each sitting with the rigid posture of someone trying to minimize their contact with the unknown. Their faces are masks of concentration and barely controlled fear, eyes darting constantly toward the holes beneath them. No one speaks. The unwritten rule of the latrines is silence, as if conversation might attract the attention of whatever lurks below. You choose a seat near the wall, hoping the proximity to solid stone might offer some psychological comfort. The marble is cold against your legs as you lift your tunic, and you can't help but notice how the stone seems to radiate, a chill that has nothing to do with the morning air. It's as if the marble itself has absorbed years of fear and terror, becoming a conduit for the dread that permeates this place. The holes of horrors, you position yourself over the hole. You can't resist the urge to peer down into its depths. The opening descends into absolute darkness, a perfect circle of black that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. The edges are worn smooth by countless bodies, but you can see scratches in the marble deep gouges that look like claw marks, as if something from below had Trito climb up. The sound that rises from the depths is unlike anything in the natural world. It's not just the flow of water through the sewer system, though that's part of it. There's a rhythmic quality to it, like breathing, and underneath that, a wet, sliding sound that makes your imagination run wild with possibilities. Sometimes the sounds pause, as if whatever makes them is listening, waiting for the right moment to act. You try to relax, to let your body perform its natural functions, but every instinct screams at you to flee. The hole beneath you seems to pulse with malevolent life, and you can swear you feel air currents moving up from below. carrying with them scents that have no place in any civilized world. Salt water, certainly, but also the smell of things, long dead and things that should never have lived. A drop of moisture falls from somewhere above, landing on your shoulder with a cold splash. You look up to see condensation forming on the ceiling, but the liquid that touched you doesn't feel like water. It's thicker, more viscous, and it leaves a strange tingling sensation on your skin. You wipe it away quickly, but the feeling lingers, as if something in that drop was alive and trying to burrow into your flesh. The communal horror to your left. Mounted on the wall in a bronze bracket hangs the communal sponge stick that's shared, implement of hygiene that represents everything wrong with Roman public sanitation. The wooden handle is worn smooth by countless desperate grips, its surface stained dark with substances you prefer not to identify. The sponge itself, once white and pristine, is now a mottled brown and gray, its porous surface harboring bacteria and worse things that have made it their home. The trough of salt water beneath. It is supposed to keep the sponge clean between uses, but the liquid is cloudy and warm, heated by the bodies and breaths of those who use this place. Small particles float in the water. Some are clearly organic matter, while others move with a purpose that suggests they might be alive. The bronze of the trough is green with verdigris, and you can see scratch marks along its rim where desperate fingernails have sought purchase. You watch in horrified fascination as the man next to you reaches for the sponge stick. His hand trembles as he grasps the handle, and you can see the muscles in his jaw clench as he prepares for what he must do. The wet sound it makes as he uses it echoes in the chamber, and several other occupants visibly flinch at the noise. When he's finished, he places it back in the trough with obvious relief. But you notice he keeps glancing at his hand, as if expecting to see some sign of contamination. The salt water sloshes gently as the sponge settles back into its resting place. The movement creates small waves that lap against the sides of the trough, and for a moment you think you see something else moving in the water. Something that darts away from the light too quickly for you to identify. The man beside you notices it too, and his face goes pale as he quickly moves away from the wall. Sounds from the deep suddenly. From the network of holes throughout the chamber comes a sound that makes everyone freeze. It starts as a low rumble, like distant thunder. But it's coming from below, from the sewer system that runs beneath the city. The sound grows louder, more distinct, and you realize it's not thunder at all. It's something large moving through the water, something that displaces enough liquid to create waves that echo through the tunnels. The marble beneath you vibrates slightly with the passage of whatever is moving below. You can feel it through the stone, a rhythmic pulsing that seems to match the beating of some enormous heart. The other occupants of the latrine look at each other with wide, terrified eyes, but no one speaks. What is there to say about something that defies explanation? The sound passes beneath your section of the building, and you swear you can feel something brush against the bottom of the hole you're sitting over. It's just the lightest touch, like a finger trailing through. Water, but it's enough to make you leap up from the seat with a strangled cry. The other Romans nod in understanding. They've all felt that touch at one time or another. That gentle exploration from something that has no business being in a sewer system. You stand there, tunic bunched around your waist, staring down at the hole that moments before had been your seat. The darkness within seems deeper now, more absolute, as if whatever passed below has taken some of the light with it. You can hear water dripping somewhere in the depths, each drop echoing like a countdown to some unimaginable horror. The first tentacle as you hesitate, trying to decide whether to flee or continue with your business. You see it, a pale, glistening appendage emerging slowly from the hole. At first, you think it might be a root or a piece of debris washed up from the sewers. But then you see the way it moves, with purpose and intelligence that no plant could possess. The tentacle is thick as your wrist and covered in a pattern. Hose suction cups that pulse with their own rhythm. The appendage explores the rim of the hole with delicate precision, its tip questing back and forth like a blind snake tasting the air. The suction cups make wet, popping sounds as they attach to and release from the marble, leaving behind small circular marks on the stone. You can see that the marble around many of the holes bears similar marks, evidence that this is not the first time such creatures have ventured up from the depths. Other Romans in the chamber begin to notice the tentacle, and a wave of panic ripples through the room. Some flee immediately, their business forgotten in the face of this tangible proof of their worst fears. Others remain frozen in place, either too terrified to move or too committed to their bodily functions to abandon them now. One elderly man begins muttering prayers to Neptune, begging the sea god to call back his creatures. The tentacle continues its exploration, growing bolder as it encounters no resistance. More of its length emerges from the hole, revealing the alien beauty of its construction. The skin is translucent in places, allowing you to see the complex network of muscles and nerves that control its movement. Bioluminescent patches along its length pulse with a soft blue-green light, like stars in the darkness of the sewer system. The intelligence behind the tentacle, what terrifies you most, is not the tentacle itself, but the obvious intelligence behind its movements. This is not the random thrashing of a trapped animal, but the deliberate exploration of a creature that understands its environment and is actively investigating something new. The tip of the tentacle hovers near where you were sitting, and you realize with horror that it's following your scent, tracking the warmth and chemical signals that mark you as a living being. The creature seems to sense your presence, even though you're no longer in contact with the seat. The tentacle weaves back and forth in the air, its tip pointing in your direction like a compass needle finding magnetic north. You take a step backward, and the tentacle follows the movement, confirming your worst suspicions. Whatever this thing is, it's aware of you and interested in making contact. More tentacles begin to emerge from other holes throughout the chamber. They rise like pale flowers blooming in reverse, each one questing and exploring with the same purposeful intelligence. The chamber fills with the wet sounds of their movement and the increasingly panicked breathing of the remaining Romans. You realize that this isn't just one creature, but several, and they're coordinating their emergence in a way that suggests communication between them. The bioluminescent patches on the tentacles begin to pulse in unison, creating a pattern of light that ripples across the chamber like waves on a dark sea. It's beautiful in its alien way, but the beauty only makes it more terrifying. These creatures are not mindless beasts. They're intelligent, organized, and they've been living beneath Rome for who knows how long, learning the patterns of human behavior and waiting for the right moment to make contact. The octopus emerges from the hole you were using. Something much larger begins to emerge. First comes a bulbous head, pale and glistening, with eyes the size of dinner plates that reflect the dim light like black mirrors. The eyes are unmistakably intelligent, and they fix on you with an intensity that makes your blood run cold. This is not the vacant stare of a fish or the simple awareness of a dog. This is the gaze of something that thinks, that plans, that remembers. The octopus pulls itself up through the hole with fluid grace, its body compressing and expanding as it navigates the narrow opening. Its skin shifts color constantly, from pale white to mottled brown to deep purple, each change seeming to reflect its emotional state, or perhaps its intentions. The texture of its skin ripples and flows like water, and you can see the powerful muscles beneath working in perfect coordination. As more of the creature emerges, you realize just how large it is. The body alone is the size of a wine amphora, and the tentacles, now fully extended, reach nearly to the ceiling of the chamber. This is no ordinary octopus that has wandered up from the Mediterranean. This is something that has grown large and strong in the rich environment of the Rome sewers, feeding on whatever falls from above and growing ever more intelligent with each passing year. The creature's skin bears scars long, straight lines that look suspiciously like sword cuts, and round marks that might be spear wounds. Someone has fought this thing before, and it has survived, learned, adapted. The scars tell a story, bend of encounters with humans, of battles fought in the darkness beneath the city, of a creature that has earned its place in the urban ecosystem through cunning and strength. The touch of the alien one, of the octopus's tentacles, reaches toward you, deliberate slowness, giving you time to flee if you choose. But something about the creature's demeanor suggests that running might not be the best option. Its eyes never leave yours, and there's something almost curious about its approach. The tentacle stops just inches from your leg, hovering there as if asking permission to make contact. Against every instinct screaming at you to run, you remain still. The tentacle touches your thigh with surprising gentleness, its skin cool and slightly rough like wet leather. The suction cups along its length do not grip aggressively, but instead seem to taste you, sampling the salt and oils on your skin. With delicate precision, the sensation is unlike anything you've ever experienced, lean yet not entirely unpleasant. Through that touch, you sense something that defies explanation. It's as if the creature is communicating with you, not through words or sounds, but through direct contact with your nervous system. Images flash through your mind visions of the sewer system from the creature's perspective. Vast underwater caverns filled with bioluminescent life and other things. Stranger things that live in the spaces between the human world and the sea. You see through the octopus's eyes as it navigates the tunnels beneath Rome, following currents of fresh water that flow down from the hills, hunting for food in the rich ecosystem that has developed in the sewers. You see other creatures as thick as a man's torso, crabs with shells that gleam like polished bronze, and things that have no names in any human language. This is a world within a world, a hidden realm that exists parallel to human civilization. The sewer ecosystem, the visions continue, showing you the true extent of what lies beneath Rome. The sewer system is not just a network of tunnels for carrying away waste. It's become a thriving ecosystem, a underwater realm where creatures from the Mediterranean have adapted to life in the tunnels and chambers beneath the city. The constant flow of organic matter from above has created a rich feeding ground, and the creatures have grown large and intelligent in this hidden world. You see vast chambers carved from living rock, their walls covered with bioluminescent organisms that provide light for the creatures that have made this place their home. Gardens of sea, anemones wave in the current, their tentacles filtering nutrients from the water that flows past. Crews of fish that have never seen sunlight dart between the pillars that support the city above, their scales glowing with their own inner light. The octopus shows you its lair chamber lined with treasures that have fallen from the world. Above, Roman coins glitter in neat piles, their gold and silver surfaces polished by the creature's careful attention. Jewelry lost by careless bathers lies arranged in patterns that suggest aesthetic appreciation, and weapons dropped by soldiers are displayed like trophies of war. This creature is not just intelligent, it's cultured, capable of appreciating beauty and organizing its environment according to its own alien aesthetics. But there are darker visions to images of humans who have fallen into the sewer system and never emerged. The octopus does not show you their fate directly, but you sense that not all encounters between the surface world and the depths end as peacefully as this one. Some humans pose a threat to the creatures below, and they respond to threats with the same intelligence they apply to everything else. The network of intelligences, the visions continue. You begin to understand that the octopus touching you is not alone in its intelligence. The creatures of the sewer system communicate with each other through methods that humans cannot perceive, chemical signals carried by the water, bioluminescent displays that convey complex information, and perhaps even direct neural contact like what you're experiencing now. They form a network of consciousness that spans the entire underground realm, sharing knowledge and coordinating their activities with a sophistication that rivals human civilization. You see how they've learned to predict human behavior, timing their movements to avoid the busy periods when the latrines are most heavily used. They've mapped every tunnel and chamber, catalogued every entrance and exit, and developed strategies for dealing with the various threats that come from above. Some humans they avoid, others they observe with curiosity, and a few they mark, be as dangerous and deal with accordingly. The octopus shows you how they've adapted Roman engineering to their own purposes. Abandoned sections of the sewer system have been modified with organic additions-living walls that filter water, bioluminescent, markers that serve as navigation aids, and structures that seem to grow rather than being built. The creatures have not just inhabited the Roman sewers, they've improved them, creating a hybrid system that serves both human and non-human needs. You realize that Rome's famous sanitation system works as well as it does, partly because of these creatures. They consume organic waste, break down harmful substances, and maintain the flow of water through the tunnels. The Romans above take credit for their engineering marvels, never knowing that its success depends on the cooperation of an alien intelligence that lives in the darkness below, the ancient pact through the octopus's touch. You learn of an ancient understanding between the surface world and the depths. It's not a formal agreement. Humans are barely aware of the creatures' existence, but rather an evolved relationship based on mutual benefit. The creatures clean the sewers and prevent the spread of disease, while humans provide a steady supply of organic matter and occasionally, inadvertently, new members for the underground community. The octopus shows you glimpses of this relationship throughout Roman history. You see the early days when the first sewers were built, and sea creatures began exploring these new underwater highways. You witness their gradual adaptation to life in the tunnels, their growth in size and intelligence as they fed on the rich nutrients flowing down from the city above. You observe their first tentative contacts with humans, the fear and wonder on both sides as two different forms of consciousness encountered each other. Some Romans, you learn, have always known about the creatures. Certain priests of Neptune maintain secret shrines in the depths, offering prayers and sacrifices to ensure the continued cooperation of the sea dwellers. A few engineers and architects have designed their projects with the creatures in mind, leaving spaces and passages that serve no obvious human purpose, but provide essential habitat for the underground ecosystem. The knowledge has been passed down through generations in whispered conversations and coded messages. The warning inscriptions you saw on the walls are part of this tradition, not just warnings of danger, but acknowledgments of a presence that must be respected. Those who understand the true nature of the relationship know that the creatures are not monsters to be feared, but partners in maintaining the delicate balance that keeps Rome functioning. The price of knowledge, the visions fade, and the octopus withdraws its tentacle. You're left with a profound sense of having been changed by the experience. The knowledge you've gained comes with a price. You can never again see Rome's sewers as simple engineering projects. Never again use the public facilities without awareness of the intelligence that watches from below. You've been initiated into a secret that spans centuries, made part of a hidden history that runs parallel to the official records of Roman civilization. The octopus regards you with what you now recognize as approval. Its color shifts too, a warm golden hue, and its movements become more relaxed, less guarded. You understand that you've passed some kind of test, proven yourself worthy of the knowledge you've been given. The creature's eyes hold depths of wisdom that make you feel like a child in comparison. And you realize that human civilization, for all its achievements, is still young compared to the ancient intelligence that dwells in the sea. Other tentacles throughout the chamber begin to withdraw, disappearing back into their holes with fluid grace. The remaining Romans watch in amazement as the creatures retreat, leaving behind only the memory of their presence and the faint bioluminescent traces that mark their passage. The chamber returns to its normal state of fearful tension. But you know that nothing will ever be quite the same. You complete your business quickly, no longer afraid of what might emerge from the depths. The creatures have shown you their true nature, and you understand now that the real horror was never the creatures themselves, but human ignorance of their existence. Fear of the unknown had transformed natural curiosity into terror, cooperation into conflict. The return to Lightus. You make your way back up the stone steps toward the surface. Each footfall feels different than it did on your descent. The weight of new knowledge changes your perspective on everything around youth. The carved warnings on the walls now read like poetry rather than desperate scrawls, and the shadows seem less threatening and more mysterious. You're carrying secrets now, part of a hidden history that connects the surface world to the depths in ways that most Romans will never understand. The light grows brighter as you climb, but instead of feeling relief at leaving the underground chamber, you feel a strange sense of loss. The world above suddenly seems smaller, more limited, constrained by human understanding and human fears. Below, in the darkness, exists a realm of wonder and intelligence that most people will never experience, never even suspect. You emerge into the bright Roman morning, but the sunlight feels harsh after the gentle bioluminescence of the depths. The normal sounds of the city merchants hawking their wares, children playing, the clip-clop of horses on stone seam, somehow artificial after the organic rhythms of the underwater world. You stand for a moment at the entrance to the latrine, looking back into the shadows, knowing that you'll never see this place the same way again. Other Romans pass by, going about their daily business, unaware of the revelation you've just experienced. You want to tell them, to share the wonder and beauty you've discovered, but you know they wouldn't believe you. They'd think you were mad or drunk or suffering from some kind of fever dream. The truth is too strange, too far outside their understanding of how the world works. The changed perspective as you walk through the streets of Rome. Everything looks different through your new understanding. The great aqueducts that bring water to the city are no longer just marvels of engineering. They're highways for creatures from the sea, pathways that connect the Mediterranean to the heart of the empire. The fountains and baths that Romans are so proud of are meeting places where two worlds intersect, where the boundary between human and non-human becomes fluid and permeable. You notice things you never saw before. The way certain drains are positioned, the patterns of wear on marble surfaces, the subtle signs that speak of non-human intelligence at work in the city's infrastructure. Rome is not just a human city, you realize, but a hybrid creation, a collaboration between surface dwellers and the creatures of the depths. The Romans have built their civilization on top of and in partnership with something far older and more mysterious than they know. The people around you seem suddenly fragile and limited, trapped in their narrow understanding of reality. They fear what they don't understand, turning natural wonder into horror through ignorance and superstition. The stories they tell about monsters in the sewers are distorted reflections of a truth too beautiful and complex for their simple narratives of good and evil, civilization and wilderness. You think about the octopus's scars, the evidence of past conflicts with humans who couldn't see beyond their fear. How many opportunities for understanding have been lost to violence born of ignorance? How many wonders remain hidden? Because humans prefer the comfort of familiar fears to the challenge of expanding their understanding. The secret keepers, as the days pass, you begin to notice others who share your secret knowledge. They're not obvious about it, a glance held a moment too long, a subtle nod when passing the entrance to a public latrine, a certain way of moving that suggests awareness of hidden depths. You realize that there's a community of people who know about the creatures, who've had their own encounters with the intelligence that dwells below. Some are priests of Neptune, who tend secret shrines in the depths, maintaining the ancient pact between surface and sea. Others are engineers and architects who design with both human and non-human needs in mind. A few are simply ordinary Romans who've been touched by the mystery and chosen to keep its secrets rather than flee from them. They form an invisible network within the city, connected by shared knowledge and mutual understanding. You learn to recognize the signs, certain phrases that carry double meanings, gestures that acknowledge the presence of hidden watchers' offerings, left at specific locations that serve no obvious purpose to human observers. The secret keepers have developed their own language, their own rituals, their own ways of honoring the relationship between the worlds above and below. One evening, as you're walking past a fountain in the Forum, an elderly woman approaches you. She's dressed simply, like any other Roman matron, but there's something in her eyes that speaks of deep knowledge. "You've seen them," she says quietly. Not a question, but a statement of fact. When you nod, she smiles and presses a small object into your hand, a carved piece of coral shaped like an octopus, warm to the touch and somehow alive with its own inner light. The deeper mysteries, the coral talisman becomes your key to understanding the deeper mysteries of Rome's hidden worlds. When you hold it while using the public facilities, the creatures respond differently, more openly, more trustingly. They show you things that casual observers never see, reveal secrets that have been hidden for generations. You learn that the network of tunnels beneath Rome extends far beyond what the engineers intended, connecting to natural caves and underwater chambers that predate human civilization. In these ancient spaces, you discover evidence of the creature's long history. Cave paintings, created with bioluminescent pigments, tell stories of the sea's first contact with the land, of the gradual adaptation to life in the tunnels, of the slow development of the relationship with human civilization. The art is beautiful, in its alien way, depicting scenes and concepts that human minds can barely grasp. You see representations of the creature's understanding of time not as a linear progression, but as a flowing current that carries all things toward an unknown destination. Their concept of space is equally foreign, showing the underground realm as a three-dimensional web of connections that link every part of the Mediterranean world. To them, Rome is not the center of an empire, but simply one node in a vast network of underwater highways that span the known world. The creatures have been watching human civilization develop. You realize, studying it with the same scientific curiosity that Romans apply to their engineering projects. They've seen empires rise and fall, witnessed the development of technology and culture, observed the slow evolution of human understanding. To them, Rome is just the latest in a long series of surface civilizations, interesting but temporary, worthy of study but not worship, by the greater network through deeper communion with the creatures. You begin to understand that Rome's sewer system is just one small part of a vast underground network that connects cities throughout the Mediterranean world. Creatures can travel from Rome to Alexandria, from Athens to Carthage, using underwater highways that humans never suspected existed. They carry information and goods between distant places, maintaining their own form of commerce and communication that operates parallel to human trade routes. The implications are staggering. While Roman legions march across the surface world, conquering and controlling, an entirely different civilization moves freely through the depths, unbound by human borders or political divisions. They've been watching the rise of Rome with interest, but also with the detached perspective of beings who have seen many such rises and know that all surface empires are temporary. You learn that some of Rome's greatest achievements have been influenced by knowledge gained from the creatures. Certain architectural innovations, improvements in hydraulic engineering, even advances in medicine have their roots in observations of how the underground ecosystem functions. The creatures don't share this knowledge directly there too, alien for easy communications. But observant humans have learned to watch and learn from their methods. The coral talisman grows warm in your hand as you contemplate these revelations. You understand now that you've been given more than just knowledge. You've been made part of something larger, a bridge between two forms of consciousness that have been evolving together for centuries. The responsibility is both thrilling and terrifying, knowing that you carry secrets that could change how humans understand their place in the world. The night visits your new understanding changes not just your daytime experiences, but your nights as well. You begin to dream of the underwater realm, vivid visions that feel more like memories than fantasies. In these dreams, you swim through the tunnels beneath Rome, breathing water as easily as air, seeing through eyes that can perceive spectrums of light unknown to human vision. The dreams are so real that you wake with the taste of salt water in your mouth and the feeling of currents flowing around your body. Sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, you hear sounds from the drains and sewers near your building. Not the usual flow of water and waste, but something else, music, perhaps, or conversation in a language that uses tones and rhythms instead of words. Pease your ear to the floor and listen to the symphony of the depths, the ongoing dialogue between creatures whose thoughts move like currents in the sea. On certain nights, when the moon is dark and the city sleeps deeply, you venture out to visit the public latrines. The creatures seem to expect you, emerging more readily from their holes to share visions and knowledge. These midnight communions become a regular part of your life, a secret ritual that connects you to the hidden world beneath Rome. You learn to time your visits with the tides, understanding that the creatures are most active when the sea calls to them, through the network of tunnels. During one such visit, you encounter something unprecedented, a creature that has learned to mimic human speech. Its voice is strange, formed by organs never meant to produce human sounds, but the words are clear enough. You ... understand ... now. The simple phrase carries depths of meaning, acknowledgement of your transformation from ignorant surface dweller to initiated bridge between worlds. The transformation months pass, and you realize that your contact with the creatures has changed you in fundamental ways. Your senses have become more acuter, can smell water from great distances, feel the movement of currents through solid stone, perceive patterns of light and shadow that were invisible to you before. Sometimes you catch yourself moving, with a fluid grace that seems more suited to swimming than walking, your body unconsciously mimicking the motions you've observed in your underwater visions. Your understanding of time has shifted as well. The urgent pace of Roman life seems increasingly artificial, driven by human anxiety rather than natural rhythms. You find yourself thinking in longer cycles, considering the implications of actions not just for years, but for decades, even centuries. The creature's perspective on time is infectious, their patient approach to existence gradually replacing your human need for immediate results. People begin to notice the change in you. Friends comment on your calmness in situations that would normally cause stress, your ability to find solutions to problems that baffle others. You've gained a reputation for wisdom that seems to come from some deep, mysterious source. When asked about it, you simply smile and suggest that spending time near water helps clarify the mind. The coral talisman has become warm to the touch, its surface developing new patterns that seem to shift and flow like living tissue. You realize that it's not just a carved ornament, but a living thing, a piece of the creature's world that continues to grow and change in response to your deepening connection with their realm. Sometimes, when you hold it up to the light, you can see tiny movements within its structure, as if microscopic creatures are building and rebuilding its internal architecture. The greater purposes your understanding deepens. You begin to perceive the greater purpose behind your initiation into the creature's world. Rome is approaching a crisis, not the obvious political and military challenges that dominate public discourse, but something deeper, an environmental catastrophe that threatens the delicate balance between surface and depth. The city's rapid growth has begun to overwhelm the natural systems that keep it functioning, and the creatures are struggling to maintain their part of the ancient pact. The visions they share with you now are darker, showing possible futures, where the partnership between human and non-human intelligence breaks down completely. You see Rome's sewers clogged with waste that the creatures can no longer process, disease spreading through the city as the natural cleaning systems fail. You witness the creatures retreating deeper into the earth, abandoning the surface world to its own folly, leaving humans to face the consequences of their ignorance. But there are other visions too, brighter possibilities where understanding replaces fear, where humans learn to work consciously with their hidden partners instead of taking their services for granted. In these futures, Rome becomes something unprecedented, truly hybrid city where two forms of intelligence collaborate openly, creating technologies and social systems that neither could achieve alone. The potential is breathtaking, but requires humans to abandon their assumption that they are the only intelligent life that matters. You realize that you and others, like you, are being prepared for a crucial role in determining which future comes to pass. The creatures cannot communicate directly with most humans. The gap between their consciousness and ordinary human awareness is too great, but they can work through intermediaries, through humans who have been touched by their mystery and transformed by the contact. You are becoming a translator, a bridge between worlds that desperately need to understand each other. The call to action. The choral talisman pulses with urgent warmth, and you know that the time for passive observation is ending. The creatures are calling upon their human allies to take action, to begin the delicate work of revealing the hidden partnership to those who are ready to understand. It's a dangerous undertaking. Most Romans would react with fear and violence to the knowledge that their city depends on non-human intelligence. But the alternative is the collapse of the entire system. You begin to identify others who might be ready for initiation, watching for signs of openness to mystery, of willingness to question assumptions about the nature of reality. A young engineer who designs with unusual sensitivity to natural flows. A priestess who speaks of Neptune as if she's actually met him. A philosopher who writes about the interconnectedness of all life. These are the people who might be able to handle the truth. The process of revelation must be gradual, carefully managed to avoid panic or rejection. You start with subtle hints, casual observations about the remarkable efficiency of Rome's sanitation system. Questions about what might live in the spaces between human knowledge and natural mystery. Some people dismiss your words as idle speculation, but others lean forward with interest, sensing that you're offering them a glimpse of something profound. Your first successful initiation comes when you guide a young architect to a midnight encounter with the creatures. She's been struggling with a design problem. How to create a new public bath that won't disrupt the natural water flow. And you suggest that the solution might come from understanding the existing system more deeply. When the octopus emerges, dives from the depths, and shares its vision of optimal water management, she weeps with joy at the beauty and intelligence of the design principles she's shown. The growing network word spreads quietly through Rome's intellectual community about the mysterious insights available to those brave enough to seek them in the depths. The network of initiated humans grows slowly but steadily, each new member carefully chosen and gradually prepared for the revelation. Engineers begin incorporating biomimetic principles into their designs. Priests develop new rituals that honor the partnership between surface and depth. And philosophers write treatises on the nature of consciousness that hint at truths too dangerous to state directly. The creatures respond to this growing understanding with increased cooperation. Rome's sewers begin to function more efficiently than ever before, processing waste and managing water flow with an elegance that amazes even the city's engineers. Disease rates drop as the natural cleaning systems operate at peak efficiency, and the quality of water throughout the city improves dramatically. Those who know the truth understand that they're witnessing the results of conscious collaboration between human and non-human intelligence. But the changes don't go unnoticed by everyone. Some Romans begin to whisper about strange improvements in the city's infrastructure, about problems solving themselves without human intervention. A few conservative senators question whether Rome is becoming too dependent on systems they don't fully understand, whether the city's famous engineering is being corrupted by foreign influences. The political implications of the hidden partnership begin to surface, threatening to expose the entire network before it's strong enough to survive public scrutiny. You realize that the next phase of the work will be even more challenging than the first. It's one thing to initiate individuals into the mystery, quite another to prepare an entire civilization for the revelation that they share their world with non-human intelligence. The creatures are patient, but their patience has limits. Humans cannot learn to acknowledge and respect their partners. The partnership will end with catastrophic consequences for both sides. The test of faith. As Rome's political situation becomes more unstable, the hidden partnership faces its greatest test. A new emperor rises to power, one who promises to restore traditional Roman values and eliminate foreign influences from the city. His agents begin investigating the unusual efficiency of Rome's infrastructure, searching for evidence of sabotage or corruption. The network of initiated humans must decide whether to reveal themselves and risk persecution or remain hidden, and watch as ignorance destroys what they've worked to build. The creatures themselves seem to be withdrawing, their presence in the sewers becoming more subtle and elusive. You sense their uncertainty, their debate about whether to continue the partnership or retreat to the deep places where humans cannot follow. The coral talisman grows cold in your hand, its inner light dimming as the connection between worlds weakens. Time is running out for both sides to find a way forward that preserves what they've built together. In the deepest part of the night, you make your way to the most sacred of the hidden shrines. A chamber far beneath the city, where the boundary between human and non-human space dissolves completely. There, surrounded by bioluminescent art that tells the story of the partnership, you commune with the eldest of the creatures, an ancient octopus whose wisdom spans centuries. Through touch and vision, you share your fears and hopes, your understanding of human nature and its potential for both wisdom and folly. The Ancient One shows you visions of other cities, other civilizations that have faced similar choices. Some chose fear and isolation, cutting themselves off from the natural world, and eventually collapsing under the weight of their own ignorance. Others found the courage to embrace partnership with non-human intelligence, creating hybrid civilizations that achieved wonders beyond anything purely human societies could accomplish. The choice facing Rome is not unique, but the consequences will be felt for generations to come. The moment of truth, the crisis, comes when imperial investigators discover one of the hidden shrines. The evidence they find: carved coral bioluminescent art, offerings to unknown gods, confirms their suspicions that foreign influences have infiltrated Rome's infrastructure. Arrests begin, and several members of the network are taken for questioning. The Emperor demands answers about the conspiracy that has supposedly been undermining Roman purity. You and the other initiated humans face an impossible choice: reveal the truth about the creatures and risk being dismissed as madmen or traitors, or remain silent and watch as fear and ignorance destroy the partnership that has kept Rome functioning. The coral talisman burns cold against your skin, and you know that the creatures are preparing to withdraw permanently if the persecution continues. In the end, it's a child who provides the solution. The Emperor's own son, a boy of 12 who has been secretly visiting the public latrines out of curiosity about the strange sounds he hears there, encounters one of the creatures during the height of the crisis. Instead of fear, he feels wonder, and the octopus, sensing his innocence and openness, shares with him a vision of the partnership's true nature. The boy returns to his father with stories of the beautiful, intelligent creatures who help keep Rome clean and healthy. At first, the Emperor dismisses his son's tales as childish fantasy, but the boy's detailed knowledge of the sewer system and his accurate predictions about water flow patterns eventually convince his father to investigate personally. The Emperor's own encounter with the creatures transforms him from skeptic to protector, and the persecution ends as suddenly as it began. To the New Age with imperial protection. The partnership between human and non-human intelligence enters a new phase of openness and cooperation. The creatures are no longer hidden secrets, but acknowledged partners in maintaining Rome's infrastructure. Engineers work directly with octopi and other sea dwellers to design more efficient systems, while priests develop new rituals that honor both human and non-human contributions to the city's success. The changes ripple throughout the empire as other cities learn of Rome's revolutionary approach to urban planning. Hybrid technologies spread across the Mediterranean world, creating a new form of civilization that combines human ambition with non-human wisdom. The boundary between natural and artificial becomes fluid as living systems are integrated with engineered structures to create something entirely new. You find yourself in a position of great responsibility, serving as one of the primary translators between human and non-human intelligence. Your transformed senses and deep understanding of both worlds make you invaluable in negotiating the complex agreements that govern the new partnership. The coral talisman has grown into something resembling a living organ. Its warm pulse, synchronized with your heartbeat as it facilitates communication across the species barrier. The work is challenging, but deeply rewarding. Each day brings new discoveries about the nature of consciousness, intelligence, and cooperation. The creatures share knowledge accumulated over millennia, while humans contribute their own insights about technology, organization, and creative problem-solving. Together, they begin to address challenges that neither could handle alone. Degradation, resource scarcity, the complex dynamics of large-scale social organization. The legacy years pass, and the hybrid civilization that began in Rome spreads throughout the known world. Cities become living organisms, their infrastructure managed by partnerships between human engineers and non-human intelligence. The Mediterranean Sea becomes a highway, not just for human trade, but for the exchange of ideas between surface and depth civilizations. Art, philosophy, and science are transformed by the introduction of non-human perspectives on reality. You grow old in this new world, your hair white and your body bent with age, but your connection to the creatures remains as strong as ever. The coral talisman has become part of you, its living tissue integrated with your own, ensuring that the bridge between worlds will continue even after your death. You've trained successors, young humans who show the same sensitivity to mystery that first drew the creature's attention to you. On quiet evenings, you sit by the fountains of Rome and listen to the conversations flowing through the water. Human voices mix with the tonal communications of the creatures, creating a symphony of consciousness that spans species and elements. Children play in the streets above, while their non-human friends swim in the tunnels below, both groups contributing to the maintenance of the city they share. The public latrines have been transformed from places of fear into temples of cooperation, their marble seats worn smooth by generations of humans who come not just for bodily relief, but for communion with the intelligence that dwells in the depths. The holes that once seemed like gateways to horror are now recognized as portals to wonder, connections to a realm of consciousness that has enriched human understanding beyond measure. The eternal partnership has. You prepare for your final journey. You return one last time to the chamber where your transformation began. The ancient octopus is still there, its eyes holding the wisdom of centuries, its tentacles moving with the same graceful intelligence that first captivated you. Through touch and vision, you share the story of what has been accomplished. The partnership that grew from fear and ignorance into understanding and cooperation. The creature shows you visions of the future cities that float on the sea. There, foundations anchored in coral reefs tended by human octopus. Partnerships, underwater farms that feed both surface and depth populations. Managed by hybrid intelligences that understand both terrestrial and aquatic needs. Exploration vessels that carry mixed crews to distant shores, spreading the model of cooperation. 2 new lands and new species. You see your own legacy in these visions, not just the specific work you've done, but the principle you've helped establish that consciousness takes many forms, and that cooperation between different types of intelligence creates possibilities that none could achieve alone. The fear that once drove humans to see monsters in the depths has been replaced by wonder at the diversity and beauty of consciousness throughout the natural world. As your vision fades and your breathing slows, you feel the coral talisman pulse, one final time, transferring its accumulated knowledge to the network of living tissue that connects all the initiated humans. Your individual consciousness dissolves, but your understanding becomes part of the greater intelligence that spans species and elements, ensuring that the partnership will continue to grow and evolve. The ancient octopus watches over your transformation, with eyes that have seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of countless individuals who contributed to the great work of consciousness evolution. In the depths beneath Rome, where marble meets living rock and human engineering blends with natural systems, the eternal partnership continues, carrying the wisdom of cooperation into an uncertain but hopeful future. Sleep now, knowing that the fears that once haunted the marble seats of Rome have been transformed into bridges of understanding that span the gap between different forms of consciousness. Let the gentle rhythm of your breathing match the pulse of the tides, carrying you into dreams where the boundaries between human and non-human, surface and depth, individual and collective consciousness dissolve into the greater mystery of existence itself.